What cities have had the biggest home price drops around Salt Lake City for the first quarter of 2023 compared to 2022? That is what I'm going to talk about today, but I'm also going to talk about the three that have had the highest amount of appreciation year over year. So stay tuned. Hi, this is Melissa Ballman, and I'm a real estate agent here in the greater Salt Lake City area. So what that means, if you're looking at making a real estate move, I'd love to connect with you. Shoot me a text, send me an email, do what you got to do, but get in touch with me. But first, today I want to talk about what cities in Salt Lake County or what areas, zip codes, have seen the biggest decrease year over year. Now, we're only part of the way through March, so it's not the entire first quarter, but I pulled the numbers for January 1st to March 15th of 2022, so we can compare it to 2023. Now, my little caveat for this is just keep in mind that today's only March 17th. So there could be some sales that have not been reported that maybe they closed on the 15th or whatever. So these numbers can change a bit, but I want to have you take a look at these. Okay, so before we jump into the zip codes, I want to tell you that you're going to want to stay tuned for this whole video because I was absolutely shocked to see the 5 zip codes that had the largest price drops year over year. And it may surprise you too if you follow the market. And honestly, I'm going to stand corrected on some of the videos I've put out recently talking about some of these areas and how they're always desirable and all this. So let's take a look. Now, I want to show you Google Maps on all these cities so you know exactly where I'm talking about. And the reason I did zip codes, just so you know, I'm an analytical person. If you didn't know that, I used to be an analyst. So looking at a whole city, I feel like is not going to give us an accurate representation, and you're going to see why here. So that's why we are looking at zip codes. The first zip code we're talking about today is 84128, and they actually had the highest drop in sales price year over year. So you can see here in red where this zip code covers, just on the west side of town, out near the airport area. Okay, so I want to show you these numbers. So here's 84128. January 1st to March 15th of 2022, the average sold price was just under $486,000. And for that same time period for 2023, the average sold price was just under $381,000. So that is a decrease of over $100,000 in the average sales price year over year, which means the home price or the home sold price decreased almost 22% year over year. Now, I also want to show you in 2022, that zip code had 46 sales for this time period compared to 2023 that has 25 sales. Okay, our second zip code that had the largest decrease in Salt Lake County year over year is 84103, and that too is Salt Lake City. And you can see here, this is kind of like the Avenues area, just north of the University of Utah, into the kind of mountain areas, which nobody lives up in, it's not Immigration Canyon, let's just say that. So let's take a look at their numbers year over year. So you can see here, 84103 in 2022 was just under $865,000 average sold price, compared to 2023 coming in at just over $684,000. So they had a drop of almost 21% in the average sold price year over year. And the 2022 number of sales for this zip code was 61 compared to 39. And again, I want to mention it's March 17th. So there is a good probability that there are some sales across the board with all the information that I'm giving you that hasn't quite been reported yet, but it really isn't going to fluctuate our numbers a huge amount, or it should not. Okay, so for our third city or zip code that had the largest drop year over year, and this one hit home, Draper. Now, I will say, Draper zip code, there is some parts of Suncrest that is a Draper zip code, but is actually located in Utah County. So there is a small amount of Utah County in this zip code. Okay, but nonetheless, Draper was the third zip code on here that had the highest drop. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so 2022 Draper, it was just over $1 million average sold price compared to just under $811,000 so far for 2023, which had a decrease of sales price of over 19%. And then our home sales in Draper were pretty close to what they were in 2022. You can see here 78 compared to 70. I wouldn't be surprised if, we finish off with maybe 72 sales compared to 78 once everything is finished being recorded, but still 19% sales price decrease year over year. Okay, number 4 on the list for decreases is Cottonwood Heights. The East Bench, kind of right between the two canyons there, was our zip code that had the 4th largest drop year over year. So let's take a look at their numbers. Okay, so in 2022, they were just under $939,000 average sold price, compared to this year at just over $770,000. That's over $100,000 average decrease in the sales price, which means they dropped almost 18% year over year. And then much like Draper, they're only about 10 sales off from 2022 compared to 2023. And finally, our 5th one, we're moving to the southwest quadrant of Salt Lake County, and that's 84065, which actually covers Bluffdale and the Riverton area. And they were number 5 for the largest decrease year over year in the average sales price. Not nearly as bad as some of the other ones we've already seen, but take a look here. So in 2022, it was just over $703,000 average sold price compared to this year coming in at just over $612,000. So an almost 13% decrease in sales price. But there's quite a fluctuation in the number of sales from 2022 compared to 2023. Now, this particular area does have a ton of new construction, so I would not be surprised to see those number of units sold go up tremendously, either, the end of March or even into April as these new construction units are selling. But that's really not what we're talking about today. We're really talking more about the average sold price. So right there, those are your 5 largest drops of average sales price for Salt Lake County. But let's take a look at where the sales prices are for the top 3 that increased. And one of them is a really good increase. Okay, so our first zip code with the largest increase, and it was actually over 20%, is 84111 in Salt Lake City. And you can see here, it's kind of a busy map, but let me zoom out here a little bit. But this is kind of just west of Liberty Park, a little bit of downtown, near the ballpark, and all of that is the first one. So let's look at the numbers here. For 84111 in 2022, the average sold price was just over $463,000. This year, it's just over $576,000. So that's an over $100,000 increase in the average sales price for this zip code And that makes it over 24% increase year over year. And then look at the sales numbers again, 28 in 2022 compared to 16 this year. So far fewer sales, which could be influencing why that sales price has jumped so much. It's not uncommon for things to be torn down and rebuilt in these older areas and things like that. I don't know. I didn't jump into the numbers to look at every particular sale, but something that could have happened. Okay, our second highest is just around the corner. This zip code is 84101, so just moving a little bit east of where we were. The interesting thing looking at this map is you can see here the ballpark is included in here. And I wonder if the announcement that the ballpark is moving had anything to do with this. I mean, it is pretty close in time frame, so I'm not sure that that's really what happened, but I do find it interesting, and I think it's going to be something for everybody to watch, what happens to the home values once the ballpark is moved out to the Daybreak area from Salt Lake City. So looking at their numbers for increases, in 2022, they were just over $526,000. And in 2023, just over $623,000. So very close, your $97,000 increase year over year for just over 18% change. And just like we saw with the decreased properties or decreased sales price areas, we only had a difference of 10 units sold more in 2022 compared to 2023. Okay, and no surprise here, number 3 on the list for increases is Salt Lake City. And you can see here kind of Liberty Park all the way down near Sugar House Park on the East Bench. Yale Crest is in here, so not super surprising. Like I said, 13th and 13th is down here. So, really one of those areas that I'm not surprised to see, but they had over 10% increase year over year. In 2022, they were just under $727,000 for the sales price as compared to this year at just over $801,000. But there's a pretty good difference between how many sales there were in 2022 compared to the same time in 2023. So I'm going to leave this up for just a minute so that, you can look at all the numbers together and digest it. But my point of doing this video today is so that everybody can see the numbers and kind of make an educated decision for themselves what the right thing is for them on buying or selling. Everybody has an opinion of what they should do. Don't sell, don't buy, wait till this, wait till that. But only you know what your situation is and what the right thing is for you. And so I wanted to share these numbers with you. One thing that is very, very clear is we are definitely not selling as many units in any of these zip codes this year compared to 2022. And there's no denying that looking at the numbers. So I hope you enjoyed my video today. If you have any questions, if you want to know more about a particular zip code, anything like that, reach out to me. I am always here to help, but as always, make it a great day.